Hi everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video, and this will be my review of Season 2, Episode 5 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. And it was another great entry. The second season so far hasn't disappointed, and there are a ton of great things to talk about, and a couple things I didn't like so much that we'll talk about in this video today. And of course, like my other reviews, we're doing this in two separate parts. The first part will be completely spoiler-free. So the first half of this video, we'll talk about the episode in very general terms, without ruining anything specific. We won't get into character arcs or storylines or anything like that. So if you haven't seen the episode and you still want to listen to the review, you absolutely can without having anything ruined for you till about the midway point in this video. And then we'll drop a spoiler tag. At that point, we'll go full spoilers, and we'll reference things specifically from the episode that I really liked and a couple of things I didn't like so much. Now, all of that being said, if you like Wheel of Time content, like reviews, Easter egg videos, content breakdowns for each and every episode of Season 2, we do that here in the channel. They're in separate playlists. And we also cover rumors, leaks, and news for both Season 2 and Season 3. So any new news that comes out, official or unofficial, we'll talk about here in the channel, and we also do get the occasional leak. I just dropped Elida's casting for Season 3 not too long ago. Take a look at my exclusives playlist for that. And we have a ton of more exclusive leaks for you folks happening at the end of Season 2. So after Season 2 is done airing, we're jumping right back into leaks and speculation for Season 3. If you like Wheel of Time content, and if you're interested in this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because you're not going to miss anything that's coming from What Up in the next couple months. All right, all of that being said, before we dive into the review, I have to give you folks one more reminder. I'm reviewing the show based on the merits of the show and the show alone. Changes in the source material do not factor into my reviews at all. That's a little bit different than some other YouTube channels. They usually take changes from the source material into consideration when they do the reviews. I'm kind of ignoring the source material when it comes to actually reviewing the show, just because I want to review the show based on the merits of it being just a great or a bad show. Either or, so I don't take that in consideration. I may talk about it, especially in the spoiler section of my video, but it does not affect my scoring of the episode in any way, shape, or form. All right, that out of the way, let's get on to the actual review portion of this video. All right, so what did I think? This particular episode, I gave an 8 out of 10. I was really happy with it, and I think the way they're setting things up, I think the last couple episodes of the season, I really hope I'm going to be scoring really very high. I may not be. I went into the end of Season 1 with very high hopes, and I scored them incredibly low, episodes 7 and 8, because they realistically sort of dropped the ball due to circumstances beyond their control. I don't think that's going to happen here, considering what we've seen from the leaks and considering all of the behind-the-scenes things we've encountered so far. I think we're going to see a just absolute banner end to this season. Either way, what I expected going into episode 5 was more of a filler episode. So I expected a little bit of story progression for all of the characters, setting things up to where they had to be, what's going on. And yes, that did happen. This particular episode did do a lot of character and story progression, but it had just the right mix of action in with it, had the right mix of foreshadowing, and it had the right mix of different characters. Now, one of the things that the Wheel of Time did poorly in the first season was pacing. I thought it was absolutely all over the map and didn't do well at all. The second season so far, the pacing has been generally very, very well done. With the exception of episode 4, which I thought the pacing was a little bit off, which is why they lost some points for that one. But this episode, just like episode 3 and 2, I thought the pacing was handled perfectly. When you were introduced to the characters, they each had their own little mini story arc within the episode. It was handled. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end, sort of a culmination of a story. It felt like reading chapters of a book. Every time you saw a character or a group of characters on screen, it may not have followed their entire storyline all at once, but interspaced throughout the entire episode. They did a very good job of cutting apart each character's story arc through this episode and pacing it perfectly, so at the end of the episode, everyone's story arc was culminated or left in a little bit of a mini cliffhanger. I think they did a really good job with pacing here. As far as the sets go, the sets were absolutely gorgeous. A lot of great colors in this. I know a lot of people have complaints that the Wheel of Time is too colorful. I disagree. I really like colorful, fantastic looking fantasy, and the Wheel of Time is certainly delivering there. Everything was beautiful, from the props to the sets to the costumes. I thought it was insane the way they handled certain aspects of some of the cultures on screen this particular episode. Like I said, we'll talk more about that in the spoiler section, but it just popped. It was eye candy from start to finish. The fight scenes, like I said, choreography was absolutely beautiful in some parts, and in other parts you could tell it was kind of cut together because perhaps the fighting wasn't exactly the characters' fortes that were doing it, but All in all, this isn't a John Wick movie. It is a fantasy show, and the fighting was certainly on par or above par from what I would expect from something of this genre. So I'm going to give it full points for that as well. The last thing I want to talk about is the dialogue, the writing, the character interaction, and the acting. The acting in this particular episode was, for the most part, really well done, and there were a couple characters I didn't enjoy seeing on screen, but it's not because the acting was poor, it's because I don't like the characters, if that makes any sense. They're being played very well, I just don't enjoy the way they're being... Well, I didn't like them in the books either, so I can't even say that. I just don't like these characters, so it's hard for me to really get into them. But when they interact with other people on screen, they were perfect, at least for the characters that they were playing, and there were a couple of real standouts in this episode. Some of the actors, especially some of the new actors that joined at this particular episode, Ayoola Smart, for example, Jay Duffy, they really stole the show when they were on screen, and I was really impressed with their acting abilities and how they interacted with the rest of the cast. And they really sold their characters, if that makes any sense. I believed they were the characters they were playing. The acting in this, absolutely top notch. So, like I said, 8 out of 10 for this one. I thought it was really well done. There are a couple of little bits here and there where the dialogue was maybe not quite as perfect as it could have been. A little bit here and there where I thought it was maybe quite a little bit stiff, but other than that, overall, this episode was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a huge improvement over season 1, and I've said that every episode so far for season 2. I am thoroughly enjoying it, and if you want to get a non-book reader's opinion, I'm watching this with a bunch of non-book readers. They are actively much more enjoying season 2 than they did season 1. They have less questions. The questions they have are more of extra info rather than why did that happen? I don't understand, which happened a lot in season 1. It seems like the Wheel of Time has really matured in how they're handling portraying the book series on TV, so I'm really happy with that. All right, now we're going to get into the spoiler section. Like I said, 8 out of 10, a really great episode. If you haven't seen it yet, book some time to see it. This is a good one. And if you are a book fan, there are a number of really gut-wrenching scenes that were directly pulled from the books in this episode that are a must-see. I don't know what else to say other than that. Even if you're not a book fan, these things have a lot of emotional impact. It was a pretty emotional episode. All right. So, spoiler section now. So, spoiler warning. We're now talking very specific examples from Season 2, Episode 5 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. So, if you haven't seen the full first season and the first 5 episodes of Season 2, be forewarned, I'm going to ruin plot points and character arcs from that. And I'm also going to talk just a bit about the books during this section. So, if you haven't read the first 4 books of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, The Dragon Reborn, and The Shadow Rising, be forewarned, I'm going to ruin plot points and character arcs from that medium as well. All right, let's get on to the spoiler section of the review. All right, if I'm smiling, it's because we now get to talk spoilers. We can talk about specific incidents in the episode. It was a really good episode. It really was, folks. I was pretty happy with it. So far this season, I've had very, very few complaints, and the ones I have are a little bit of constructive criticism here and there, and I'm being nitpicky. It's just the way it is. It's hard to find things that are really wrong this season. I think they're doing an amazing job. Like I said earlier, leaps and bounds ahead of season 1. This particular episode, an 8 out of 10. I expected something a little bit less. I thought we'd be sitting around a 7, maybe like last episode. Thought this would be another filler episode where they would just do a slow burn leading up to the finale. No, they gave us some stuff. They gave us some meat in this episode, and I was really excited with it. But first I want to talk about, before we get into the rest of the episode, I need to talk about the newcomers, Ayoola Smart and Jay Duffy. So Ayoola Smart plays Aviendha. Her introduction and the way she played the character in this episode, perfection. Absolutely top notch. I really, really enjoyed watching her on screen. Love seeing her interactions with Perrin. And between the two of them, she was 100% going to be the focus of every fan, I think. Like I said, I watched this with a lot of non-book readers, and they were really impressed with Aviendha, and already she's a favorite in her household. So fantastic job there. The way she portrayed the Ayoola, the way they cut the scenes apart, the fighting, for example. This isn't a John Wick show. It's not a full-on action centric show, but the way the fighting was done was really very well done. They cut between different scenes. They showcased a lot of very flashy fighting in this, so it was more movie fighting, but they also interspersed it with a lot of real jiu-jitsu, a lot of real different fighting styles, some MMA in there. I thought it was done very, very well. I didn't have any complaints about the scene where she was fighting the White Cloaks at all. I thought it was really well done. Second person I'll talk about, again, Jay Duffy as Dain Bornhold. I don't know, and you folks can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this down below, but he mirrored Joffrey Bornhold perfectly. Like the way he held himself, the way he held his hands, the way he moved, his little head movements, they all seemed to remind me of Joffrey Bornhold. And I had to go back and just watch a couple clips from season 1 and kind of compare the two of them together. And not only do they look alike, like father and son, but it's almost like he studied the character and he's trying to be just a little bit like him on screen. Again, I have no idea if that's on purpose or not, or if it's completely accidental, but it's something I picked up on, and I really liked it. I thought his portrayal of Dain was perfect. And before he was introduced to the audience as a White Cloak, he was a very likable character. And even after he's introduced as a White Cloak, he was still a likable character. And that's kind of unfortunate considering those of us who've read the books know Dain's story arc, but so far the Wheel of Time has done a very good job taking people who may have been opposition to our heroes in the books and just making us like them, making us understand their motivations and what they're doing. One of the huge complaints I had about the book series was every villain seemed to be quite 2D, except with the exception of one or two here and there, kind of flavored with the weak stuff, and they're doing a very good job of making that not happen for the show. Jay was perfect as Dain. I thought his interactions with Perrin and Valda were spot on perfect for who he would be and what's going on. And I think the fact that Perrin spared him during this, or had Aviendha spare him rather during this episode, is really going to start to stoke and fuel the fires of what's going to happen much later. I'm pretty excited for the rest of what's going to happen with Dain's storyline with season 2 and beyond. But again, Jay Duffy, Ayoola Smart, fantastic new additions to the cast. If anyone talks to them or they hear about this, let them know that I'm incredibly impressed. I think a lot of the fandom as well. They did a very good job. Next person I want to talk about is Meera Syal, who plays Verin Sedai. She's not a newcomer per se because we've seen her in a couple of the other episodes, but she really got to shine in this particular episode. I love her storyline. I love the fact that she's picking up and searching for the Black Aja in the White Tower. I love that's how they're going to introduce it. For those of you who've read the full book series, you know why I love that, and I'm not going to get into that. It had no factor in my scoring, but I thought it was really neat, and as a book fan, I was really excited and happy. When I do my Easter egg video for this particular episode, I get a lot to say. So you're not going to want to miss that one. But again, she was absolutely fantastic, stole the show in every single scene she was in. Really, really good job. Now, sets, costumes, and whatnot. The Shan-Chan, again, the Shan-Chan are gorgeous. They're brutal, they're horrible, but they're gorgeous. Just the way they look, their costuming, the way that each of even the extras in the background move, the way they avert their eyes at the right times. It was all just done perfectly, and it pops. I know there are some people out there that think that fantasy shouldn't be clean, it shouldn't be bright, it shouldn't be colorful, that it should be more dirty and disheveled. This is a TV show, and I like the clean, bright colors that pop. I really enjoy it, and watching the Shan-Chan on screen, I can't keep my eyes off them. I thought they look gorgeous. The sets, some of the set was filmed on location outside in Morocco. Some of it was filmed on actual studio sets in Morocco, and you couldn't tell the difference. Like, it was done really, really very well. The interaction between the different scenes when they're going from inside to outside, light to dark, I thought was done and handled very, very well. Now, again, I mentioned this a couple of other times in my videos. Prime Video just tends to be dark. I've had a lot of comments on my videos when I've mentioned it in my other reviews that changing settings and things like that. I have a fairly high-end setup for my just for Wheel of Time. Realistically, I don't care about anything else. And it was very hard for me to really tweak all the settings to find the right perfect settings to get something that wasn't so dark. And I found the same thing on my phone or my computer or my tablet when I was watching Prime Video. Dark scenes generally are just a little too dark in my opinion. I don't know if that's a stylistic choice. It's not like Game of Thrones dark where they completely ruined the Battle of Winterfell. If you've watched that series, that was just a garbage episode where they just ruined everything by being too dark. But just slightly too dark in my opinion. This wasn't quite as bad as some of the other episodes so far, but there was a lot of night scenes, a lot of dark scenes, and I think, in my opinion, they're just a little too dark. Now, there wasn't much fighting in the dark, which is good, because I, for one, am not a big fan of fight scenes in the dark, because I think it's kind of cheap. They use it to hide some things. They use it to hide movement. They use it to hide the way they're moving the actors around, and maybe to blur some things so you don't quite exactly see what's going on. I like crisp. I like clean. I like close up. And they didn't have much of that in this episode. The fight with the White Cloaks and whatnot, it was at night, but it was light enough that you could see what was going on, so I was happy with that. Again, a little nitpicky here, but the dark scenes, I think, are just a smidge too dark, in my opinion. We talked earlier in the spoiler-free section about some of the acting, or some of the characters, rather, I didn't like. And it's got nothing to do with the acting. It's got nothing to do with the actors or actresses portraying these characters, or this one character in particular, but Highlight Suroth, I just don't enjoy at all. She is perfect. She's playing the character very, very well. So I think Highlight Suroth is one of those characters that I'm just not going to enjoy watching at all on screen, at even a little bit. But the petulance, the anger, the entitlement is all perfect for the character. It's playing out really well. Even the way she speaks to Ashamiel, the leader of the Chosen, is perfect for her character. I just don't enjoy the character for whatever reason. That's just me, though. Like I said, very nitpicky thing. I didn't detract a whole lot from the score for this, because the acting was really well done and the character's well done. I just didn't enjoy her or her scenes on screen. That's all. Suroth's not my cup of tea, so to speak. But Verin is. For those of you who know, you know. Other than that, there wasn't much else I didn't like about this episode. I thought it was a very solid entry. I loved Hopper. 10 out of 10, good boy. Like I said in the last episode, 100%. The way they're using real animals on screen, and WhatSeries.com, if you haven't followed them or read any of their articles, they reported a lot about these wolf dogs a few times. They're fantastic. I'm happy we're not getting garbage CG like we got in Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, when you get that warg with the weird face. I super didn't like that. Like that they're using real trained animals for this. Hopper, just, again, when he's on screen, I'm looking at Hopper, no one else. Super love Hopper. But yeah, all in all, if you like The Wheel of Time, this is a good episode. If you just like fantasy in general, this is a great episode. Would it stand on its own if you didn't watch episodes before? Of course not. But this is a great continuation of the storylines that are happening, and some of the big gut-wrenching scenes, for example, when Egwene was captured at the end, you don't have to read the books to feel the impact of that at all. That is a horrifying moment for anyone, and there's a lot of thoughts of what's going to happen. I felt when I watched those scenes on screen the same way I felt the very first time I read those scenes in the books. I was worried, I was distraught, I felt sick in the pit of my stomach for Egwene, and Madelyn Madden. The perfect amount of anguish and anger all at the same time when she was captured. And we knew for sure that this was coming. Rafe Jenkins has said a couple of different times that favorite scenes are between Rena and Egwene, and that's coming. That's definitely coming. But her being actually collared in this episode, horrifying to see, but a really great scene. They did a lot. There was, like I said, a lot of slow character burn development, a lot of story arc development in this. The only story arc that I'm going to say that I didn't enjoy, that I felt the pacing was slightly off, would have been Rand and Moiraine. And that is, I think, because I am not sure where they're going with it. So it had a solid beginning. The scenes with Lanfear, especially where she used the one power just as a flick of her fingers to kill someone just like that on screen, is exactly what I would expect from a character like her. But going to Cairhien, setting up, I know they're setting up for the next couple of episodes where he's going to meet with the nobility and see what's going on in Cairhien, and perhaps at some point or another they're going to see the Amyrlin in Cairhien, because we've seen that from promotional material. So I know that's a big setup, but I really don't know where they're going, and I thought that was the only storyline in this particular episode that didn't quite have a full culmination end to it. I would have liked to see a little bit more, or perhaps end at a different spot. I thought perhaps even them just going into Kyrene would have been a great spot to end it rather than tack on meeting with her sister. Great scenes. I mean, the scenes with Maureen's sister are absolutely fantastic, but it felt like it was just extra that could have been saved for next episode, perhaps for the beginning of the next arch. They could have walked in Kyrene, and that could have been the end of it for them for this episode, I think, and then we would have seen the beginnings next episode. Either way, again, nitpicky, not a terrible thing, but part of the reason why we didn't go above 8 points out of 10 for this particular episode. The last thing I want to mention, because I know some people will mention this in comments, where's Matt? Where's Min? What's going on? There were numbers of times in the book series where they just didn't have characters for 6, 8, 10, 15 chapters, 2 books in a row sometimes. I'm not too worried about that. We know that Matt's going to be in Falm at the end of the season for sure. We've seen that promotional material. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Min, but I think that we're likely going to see them in Kyrene, and that's where we're going next episode with Rand and Moiraine. I'm not 100% on that, but I think that's likely what's going to happen. So I'm not too concerned we didn't get to see them, and I'm kind of glad, in fact, that we didn't see them, because it would have felt kind of shoehorned in if they try to throw another little plot line in this episode. It would have ruined the pacing a bit. All right, so let me know in the comments down below what you folks thought. Did you like this episode? Was it what you expected? I mean, I was pleasantly surprised at some of the scenes and how well they were done and how much they made me feel, not just as a book fan, but also just as a fantasy fan watching this on screen. Some of them are hard to watch, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. Let me know your comments down below on the episode, and remember, I am doing Easter egg videos and breakdowns for every single episode, plus all of my news. So if you haven't watched them yet, go back and watch them. They're definitely worth a watch. I'm putting them out without being on social media, without interacting with other content creators, and I'm not watching any of their content creators' videos. These are all my own thoughts and feelings. So I'm not going on Reddit. I'm not trying to compile things from other sources. I'm just doing this on my own because I want to be able to see these things myself. And at the end of the season, I'll go back, I'll watch all the other content creators' videos. I'll support all of my fellow content creators, the ones that I've subscribed to, and all my friends that I really enjoy watching their videos normally. And then at that point, I'll look at all the things I missed, and I'll compile a big video and give credit where credit is due to you folks, because some of you are giving me things, as well as other content creators for the things I've missed. But these are just my own thoughts and opinions. So that's why I'm trying to stay off social media right now and not watching other creators' videos. So there's that. All right. Thank you so very much for sticking with me here to the very end. Here's to many more.